Sometimes in life, too many coincidences can bring any good, but this story tells us something else. In 1952, the former Fiat aeronautical engineer Giovanni Savonuzzi was trying to get back on track after a difficult period because his last business became a commercial flop. One day the telephone rang and an old friend was on the other end of the line, Luigi Segre. Segre and Savonuzzi were recruited and trained by the Office of Strategic Service, the US Military Secret Service, during the World War II, while Segre coordinated the Allied airdrops of weapons and ammunition north of Turin. Savonuzzi became the liaison officer between the US Army and the Italian National Liberation Committee in Turin. But Segre did not call him to talk about the glorious past. He was offering him a job. The same year, Segre became commercial director and shareholder partner at Ghia, a medium body shop in Turin, and he was planning to expand the business in the USA. So Savonuzzi was hired as chief of the technical office with carte blanche. One of his first tasks was to put in production 12 bodies based on the Fiat 8V chassis Ghia recently acquired from Fiat. The cars would have been Gran Turismo, with a futuristic American-style design and made with the usual and fine Italian quality. So Savonuzzi pulled out of the drawer a project he recently developed for a Swiss gentleman driver who desired to compete in the Mille Miglia and update it, particularly the roof and the interior. Segre and Savonuzzi called the model Supersonic, thanks to the jet-like resemblance. On October 1, 1953, the first sample produced, chassis number 036, was introduced to the 40th Salon de l'Automobile in Paris. In the early 50s, the Paris Motor Show was the most important show in the industry, and people from all over the world gathered there. During the motor show, Segre met an old friend, Paul Farago, with whom he was in contact during the war when they were cooperating to make safe the US Army landing in Sicily in 1943. Actually, Farago owned a garage in Detroit specialized in foreign brands, and he arrived in Paris with Howard Darren, his friend, who was involved in a project to produce the first American car fitted with a fiberglass body. Farago bought the first 8V Supersonic, and later Darren and him were invited to visit the Ghia factory in Turin. Convinced by the validity of the 8V, Darren bought two samples, chassis 039 and 043, to sell at the next New York Motor Show. The two cars, one painted in ivory and one in white, both fitted with red leather upholstery and supplementary front headlights, were shipped by sea from the Genoa harbor on December 1953. On February 6, 1954, the Third World Motor Show opened the gates at the Madison Square Garden in New York. Darren introduced in his stand the Kaiser Darren KF-161, a roadster with fiberglass body, which received very good reviews. Farago visited the show with the actress Lana Turner, who was fascinated by the KF-161, but she had already decided to buy an 8V Supersonic, the same marvelous model Farago showed her one night parked in front of the famous El Morocco nightclub of New York. So she bought the 8V in ivory color with chassis number 039. In the following days, the famous entrepreneur, racing driver, and America's Cup skipper Briggs Swift Cunningham II visited the stand. Darren proposed him to buy the white 8V Supersonic with chassis number 043. Mr. Cunningham wasn't personally interested in the car, but he thought it was a proper choice for his wife, Lucy, who loved the exotic car. So he invited Darren to visit the Cunningham Company in West Palm Beach, Florida, suggesting to bring there the car because he would have received it with a signed check. The next best occasion would be during the Florida International 12 Hours Grand Prix of Endurance at Sebring, where Mr. Cunningham would have competed with his own racing team. Darren arrived at the Sebring International Raceway on March 6th after a trip of 1,330 miles during the Friday practice session. He had also the opportunity to meet the racing driver of the Team Cunningham. Mr. Cunningham drove the 8V Supersonic for a while on the track. The odometer marked less than 3,000 miles and, completely satisfied, signed a check of $9,500. Having a reserved place in the gallery, Darin attended to the race on Sunday. And back to Detroit, he received a phone call from Lana Turner. She was unsatisfied with the car because the clutch was heavy. The gear shift was stiff. Also, she couldn't drive it with high heels, so she asked to replace it with the Kaiser Darin KF161 roadster and accepted the difference in cash.
Sorry.
How can we blame her? This image showed the car chassis number 043 in front of the guest house in the Cunningham residence at West Palm Beach, Florida. But the photo, taken by a local photographer, is a photo montage. The man behind the wheel is Howard Darin, but there wasn't any passenger on board. The image of the woman inside the car was added later because the angle is wrong and the color is more pronounced respect on the light in the image. Probably taken from another photo, it represents Mrs. Lucy Bedford Cunningham, the first wife of Briggs Swift Cunningham II and the granddaughter of Edward Thomas Bedford, co-founder of the Standard Oil Company. Mrs. Lucy drove the car through the 1954 until his husband sold it to a car dealer in Hartford, Connecticut for $5,500. The supersonic style became a sort of trademark at Ghia to impress the international customers. Engineer Savonuzzi developed his basic concept, adapting them to other chassis. In 1954, he designed the Jaguar XK120 Supersonic, which has pretty much the same body of the 8V Supersonic, and the De Soto Adventure II, which represent an interesting extreme version. Instead, the Alfa Romeo 1900 Super Sprint, introduced to the 1954 Paris Motor Show, is a perfect synthesis of the Savonuzzi's idea, and the Jaguar XK140 Coupe Sport is a sort of derivative. Finally, the Aston Martin DB2/4 Supersonic, built in 1956, is clearly a return to the original idea. But what happened to the ex-Mrs. Cunningham car in the following years? Well, the car arrived in California in 1959 and remained there until 2001. It was repainted 3 times, reupholstered 2, and in 1964 the original engine was replaced with a Chevrolet V8. Subsequently, the car arrived in Pennsylvania, where the new owner struggled quite a bit to find the original engine with matching number and to put back together all the mechanical parts. In 2012, he sold the car to a Belgian collector who began a full restoration. After 2 years spent in the Dutch garage, the 8V chassis number 043 was brought back to the original condition: white body, red upholstery, engine, gearbox, and transmission reconditioned. In 2017, he introduced the car to the Pebble Beach and to the Hampton Court Elegance concourses. Finally, in 2019, the car was auctioned by Bonhams in Carmel, California for $1,625,000 and in 2022 won the Best in Show prize at the Ocean Reef Club Elegance Concourse in Key Largo. In 2023, the car was auctioned again, this time by R.M. Sotheby's, in Carmel, California, for $2,260,000. Today, the car is still in the USA. Many thanks for watching. Please subscribe and share this video.